We're two sisters who believe that the purpose of life is to enjoy, create, and have fun. We believe that as humans, we can have anything we want, and things are always working out for us. Experience has taught us that the path to getting everything we want begins with ease. If you believe in miracles and happily ever after, or even if you just want to, then this is the podcast for you. Hi there, I'm your host, Kayla Rain.
I'm your co-host, Adria Shea.
And welcome back to Attract It with Ease. How are you, Adria?
I'm great.
Yeah? You look great. So good to see you.
You too.
I missed recording last week. It feels like we're out of sync because
I know. It feels like it's been more than a week.
Listeners don't realize this, but we have a standing appointment, so to speak, to record every week. And last week, Adria was off doing fun things for herself, and I missed her. So I'm glad to be back at it.
It's
Adria,
good to be here.
It's nice to be here with you. Tell me what you're grateful for today and why.
The first thing I'm grateful for is last week I went on a trip. I went to Mexico, and I am so grateful that I had the opportunity to go and not think about work and just was able to just enjoy myself and return safely. So that's my number one. I'm really grateful for my vacation.
I'm so jealous.
My second one is related to that. I am grateful to be in a country where I understand everything that's going on around me. I don't speak really very much Spanish at all, and I was surprised by how much I missed being able to understand everything that was going on around me. You know, the only time I heard English is when I spoke to my traveling companion. And so it's just very strange to have. It was an interesting experience, and it made me appreciative that I do understand the language here at home.
That's awesome.
And my third one is I am getting ready to move this weekend, and I'm very grateful that I have people that have agreed to come help me move, because it's just so much easier when any task is easier when you have multiple people pitching in, but moving can be monumental. So I'm very grateful for that as well.
Absolutely. I find it interesting because it feels like just a couple of episodes that we were talking about your living situation. And I know that things are in motion right now, but I think it's exciting that what we talked about just a couple of weeks ago is completely up in the air now, and you're moving up in the world. And I'm excited for that. And I am grateful that you have people to help you. I hate moving.
I was going to say, are you grateful that you live far enough away that I didn't ask you to come help?
Yes. That was not on my list, but I'm going to add that because I don't like moving. So I'm grateful for a few things today. Number one, I am so grateful for the success of our podcast. I talked about this a few episodes back, but it is incredible to see all of the countries that we have listeners in. There are so many, and I rattled off some last time, but we have a whole bunch of new ones. We have listeners in Spain. We have listeners in Norway. We have listeners in Ireland. We have listeners in Saudi Arabia. We have listeners in Australia. We are just truly reaching the entire world, and it's incredible. And I'm so grateful for that. So thank you, listeners, for tuning in and being supportive. But it is so amazing. When we first started the podcast, we really thought that we would mostly be reaching people in the United States. And that is true. That is the majority, but it's incredible to see how many other people out there are finding us and listening. And I'm grateful for that.
That's really cool.
I'm also grateful for some feedback that we got this week from one of our listeners. We had a listener email us through our website. They actually just filled out the contact form, but gave us some really great feedback on an episode that they had listened to. It was the one about alignment. And she had said that it really kind of stuck with her. It hit home. She said, I really enjoyed the part about being hooked up with your inner being and that explanation. She said, I'd heard that before. I thought I knew what it was. and realized maybe I didn't really know what it was, because now hearing it again, it finally feels like it's stuck. And that was such great feedback. And I'm so appreciative of that, because every episode that we record, I literally set my intention. We had an episode all about setting your intention, but I truly do this, listeners. I set an intention going into every episode, because it's hard. It's hard to put yourself out there and say, am I going to make any sense? Am I just going to ramble on? Are people even going to listen to me? So I set my intention every single time to be able to communicate in a way that will inspire others, connect with others, resonate with others. And so I'm just grateful for that feedback, because at least in that one episode, it had an impact on one person. And that's something that I'm grateful for today. And then the third and final thing, which I guess makes four since I'm grateful I don't have to help you move, is I'm actually grateful for my relationship with myself. I have been a work in progress, like most people, and I've had ebbs and flows in how I've viewed myself, my personality, my physical appearance. And I really have appreciated who I am and the body that I'm in a lot more than I have probably most of my life in the last few weeks. And I'm so grateful to be in a good place and to, I was thinking about it the other day. I feel like I'm my own best friend. And I have a lot of really good friends. Dan is one of my best friends. My sisters are all my best friends. But I think when I really, truly get down to it, I'm finally at a place where I can say that I am my own best friend, and I'm grateful for that.
That's beautiful. I love that.
Well, thank you. So today's episode is actually kind of taken from Esther Hicks. And I have referred to Esther Hicks a lot on the podcast because I just connect so much with the teachings of Abraham and the way that she explains the law of attraction. But recently I have been listening to an audio book because I haven't been able to find it in print. The book is called Money and the Law of Attraction, and it is by Esther Hicks. And I've been listening to it every morning, and it has had some amazing impact. I realized I said some, that sounds plural. I'm struggling with my words here. It's had an incredible impact on my life just in the last week or two that I've been listening to this book. And there's a few things that she has explained in a way that I've not really heard them explained before. And I thought, you know what? I really feel like I can reiterate these ideas to my listeners, and hopefully they'll be able to glean some of the positive attributes that I have pulled from it and be able to have the same positive impact on their life that I've been experiencing in the last few weeks. So, Adria, today, what I want to talk about is what Abraham refers to as pivoting. And pivoting is quite similar to the conversation that we had about flipping the script. It's the whole idea of there's two sides to every coin. There's two ends to every stick, is how Abraham says it. There's a negative end, there's a positive end, and you can choose which end you're going to pick up, which end you're going to focus on. So to kind of move into this conversation, I'm going to recap some things we've talked about on prior episodes, but just kind of give a foundation of understanding of the law of attraction and how the universe works. And then I want to talk about pivoting and get into it and explain it in a way that we didn't really describe it when we talked about flipping the script. So first of all, I want to make sure that our listeners understand that we live in a vibrational universe, meaning everything that we know, including ourselves and everything that surrounds us, is made of energy. Everything, all matter is made of energy. Whatever you're standing on or sitting on, your car, your house, your clothes, it's all made of energy. Everything is made from energy. And so everything in the universe works from vibration, from that energy. And that is how the law of attraction works, is through this vibration. And the reason it's important to understand that is that you also have to understand that the universe is an inclusion universe. What that means is the universe does not speak English. It does not speak in words. It does not communicate in words. It communicates only by vibration. And so, because we communicate in words and because we think in words, we often think we can control what we're reacting or attracting, excuse me, not reacting, that we can control what we're attracting just based off of our words. And our words actually represent what we're vibrating, they represent what we're thinking, which is our emotions, and our emotions are our vibration. But what I'm getting at is when you tell the universe that you don't want something, the universe does not understand don't. If you're focused on, I don't want bad weather, the universe does not understand that you said don't. It understands that you're focused on bad weather. That's what you're thinking about. And the universe wants to give you bad weather. If you're focused on, I don't want to get in an argument with this person, the universe is focused on an argument with that person. It does not understand that you're throwing in the word don't. So we've talked about this in a roundabout way, I think, a couple of times, but it's important to understand that we have to communicate vibrationally and not with our words. So we understand that the universe communicates through our vibration. And the way that we know what we're vibrating is actually the way that we're feeling. So the way that we feel is essentially our guidance system. It's like the dashboard in your car where you have the gauges and it tells you how much gas you have and it tells you how fast you're going. That's the gauge that you have on what you're vibrating is your vibration, or excuse me, your emotions. What your emotion is what your vibration is. So if you're feeling good, you're vibrating high. If you're feeling bad, you're vibrating low. And it's whatever you're putting out, whatever you're vibrating at is what you're attracting back into your reality. So all of this is fundamental. Listeners are probably like, yeah, I know, I get it. So let's move on. So let's talk about how this plays into pivoting and kind of the different way that it was explained to me through this audiobook this week. The way that Abraham explains things is that when we don't like something or when we don't want something, when we have that emotion, and it comes about all the time in life, constantly we have these things where it's like, oh, I don't want that. I don't like that. What it does is it doesn't just tell us what we don't want, but it actually tells us what we do want. It's our body's way of saying, I'm not aligned with my inner being. And in order to be aligned with my inner being, I want it to be different. I want things to be different. So, for example, going back to the bad weather, if we're saying, ugh, I hate it when it snows. Well, you're focusing on the negative. So what's the opposite? What do you love? What do you want? Well, you don't want it to snow if you hate it when it snows. So the opposite is, I love it when it's sunny. I love it when it's warm outside and the streets are dry and there's no ice on the road and the flowers are blooming and everything's bright and beautiful. And as I'm talking about this, you can probably almost feel the emotion between, I hate it when it snows versus the flowers are blooming and everything's bright and beautiful. I mean, even just the tone of my voice is different as I explain those things. But essentially, Abraham says every single time you think a thought of, I don't like this, instead of focusing on, I don't like this or I don't want this, use it as an opportunity to then ask, what is it that I do want? And then whatever that answer is, focus on that instead. So let's go through a couple of examples. Adria, I'm sure that you have had some experiences of being sick. Is that right? Have you ever been sick?
I have, yes. Unfortunately.
Okay, so when you're feeling sick, let's say that you come down with a head cold and your throat hurts and you have a runny nose and you've got a headache and you're not feeling good. What's the thought that you're thinking at that time? What's like the predominant thought when you're feeling so sick?
I feel miserable. I'm so tired of feeling this way.
Yes, I'm just over it. I don't want to be sick anymore.
Yes.
Can I please just get better? And those are the thoughts that we have. And that's natural. We don't like feeling sick. Who likes feeling sick? Nobody wants to feel sick. But what we do is we focus on, I don't want to feel like this. I want to feel better. I feel miserable. I'm exhausted. I don't want to have to work. I don't want to have to do anything. Can I please just get back to normal? And all of those things that you're vibrating out to the universe is not understanding any of the words. The universe is understanding blah, 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 blah. This is awful. So it gives you blah, 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 blah. This is awful. It gives you more. And it's funny because I'm sure, Adria, you and also our listeners have experienced times when you wake up in the morning and you're feeling pretty bad. But once you start kind of going about your day and you distract your mind from how you're feeling, you actually kind of start feeling better because you aren't focused on how you were feeling. You just are focused on something else. And now you don't feel as bad unless you actually start focusing on the fact that you were feeling bad. It's kind of funny how at the beginning of your day and the end of the day is when you feel the most sick. But in the middle, when you're in the middle of doing other things, you feel a little bit better. And then
Yes.
we say to ourselves, why is it that I always feel terrible when I first wake up and then at night I feel terrible again? Well, it's probably because your day slows down, your mind slows down, and you're back to feeling or thinking about how you're feeling and how terrible you're feeling. So let's use this example and let's say when we're feeling terrible and sick and we have a sore throat and it's like, I'm so over this. Can I please just get back to normal? I'm so tired of being sick. That's the moment where we should be saying to ourselves, okay, I don't want to be sick. So what is it that I do want? So Adria, role play with me for a second here. What is
Okay.
it that you do want? When you're feeling like that, what is it that you actually want?
Oh, I want to be able to breathe. I want to have a clear head and plenty of energy. I want to feel
Absolutely.
good.
You want to feel good. And you can take that to like even up a notch to what does it like what what is life like when it feels good? Like I want to be able to have energy. I want to be able to go out and enjoy, I don't know, dinner with my friends. I want to be able to go to work and not have to, take cold medicine. I want to be able to sleep through the night. I want to be able to, whatever it is. But it's funny how when you start vibrating at that, you're now thinking of these positive things that we usually take for granted. We take for granted how good we feel until we're not feeling good. But when we start focusing on sleeping well and breathing well and going out and hanging out with our friends and feeling good at work and having lots of energy, then that's actually what we're now attracting. And it's easier for our body to improve. It's easier for us to get better. It's easier for us to feel better. And so it's interesting because this is on the same vein of flipping the script. We talked about that in a prior episode. We talked about taking the negative and flipping it around and saying the positive. But this is different in the sense that we're using those negative thoughts to identify what we actually want. And when we identify what we actually want, that's where we should shift our mind. So I want to kind of put a disclaimer right here, because this is something that Abraham said that I totally related to, which was a lot of times when people first start learning about the law of attraction, it's easy for them to get hard on themselves for when they feel bad. It's almost like you judge yourself for not being perfect about the
Yeah.
law of attraction because you know better. You know you shouldn't think bad things. You know you shouldn't allow yourself to go there. And so it's almost like you hold yourself accountable to this really high standard, like, no, I should be perfect about this. I should be so good. I shouldn't have bad days. I shouldn't have these thoughts. And it's important to understand that it's completely normal. We're going to have bad thoughts. We're going to have bad days. We're going to think negative from time to time. And what we need to do is recognize that and almost be appreciative of that, because those are the opportunities that your body is saying you're not in alignment. And it's something where you should recognize, okay, I'm out of alignment. What do I need to do to get back into alignment? And so don't don't feel bad or be hard on yourself when you have a bad day or a negative thought, or, you know, think things you shouldn't be thinking, or attract something you shouldn't be attracting. Like, that's going to happen, but you can shift your mindset. You can shift your vibration in any given moment. So it's being able to turn that as quickly as you can, recognizing it, acknowledging it, and saying to myself, okay, I don't want this. I don't want to feel like this. I don't want to be here. So what is it that I do want? So we kind of talked about sickness. Let's go through a couple other examples. Let's talk about money. So, Adria,
Yes.
this is a role play. So, we're playing Let's Pretend.
Okay.
Let's pretend that you have had periods in your life where finances have been tight.
All right.
And you've been stressed financially. Let's kind of role play and tell me some of the thoughts going through your head when money is stressful. What are you thinking?
I reiterate to myself, I am so stressed out. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how I'm going to pay for this. There's just no way for me to accomplish X, Y, or Z because the numbers don't add up. I feel overwhelmed.
Yes. Okay. This is all pretend, listeners.
I am such a good actress.
So, since we know that the universe does not communicate in words, when we're putting out there or vibrating at, I don't know how I'm going to pay for this, I'm so overwhelmed, what do you think the universe is giving us more of?
Fear and overwhelm.
Yeah. And more lack of money, right? If we're focused on the lack of money, then we're going to continue to have lack of money until we can shift our mindset. And it's really easy to talk about and be like, "Oh, just think about lots of money." Well, no, it's not easy to do that. We've talked about that on episodes also, that sometimes it's just choosing a better feeling thought. But here's an idea. If instead of saying, "Oh, focus on lots of money," you say, "Okay, I don't like what I'm experiencing right now. I don't like how I'm feeling right now. So, what is it that I do want?" That's a completely different mindset and a different conversation to talk about what you want versus talking about, oh, just focus on lots of money. Just visualize swimming in a pile of cash. It just doesn't feel good or realistic to be like, that's the answer. If you want more money, just visualize more money. Yeah, visualizing helps. But what I'm getting at is when you recognize that you're feeling stressed, you're feeling overwhelmed, you don't know how you're going to pay your bills, you're focused on that lack, it's to kind of catch yourself and say, okay, I don't want this. I don't like this. What is it that I do want? So, Adria, role play with me again. What is it that you do want when you're in that scenario?
I want.
Oh,
I know what I want, but I always run into my limit. Up until now, I have always run into my limited beliefs when I talk about money. I want money to meet my needs.
Oh, come on,
I
stop
know.
limiting.
I
Okay,
know.
here, I'll help you out.
You do this one.
You we got to work with you. And we listeners, we are going to have an episode about money and the law of attraction. And we're going to talk about it soon. And we're going to work with you, and we're going to work with Adria and myself. I also can work on my own beliefs about money. But as you can see, there's always room for improvement. Okay, so when you're stressed about money, here's what you really want. You want to be able to pay your bills with ease. You want to have enough money to cover the things that you need and then some. You want to be able to buy things without checking your bank account. You want to be able to spend freely. You want to be able to go out to eat with your friends, and you want to be able to buy nice clothes, and you want to be able to upgrade your cell phone when the new one comes out, and you just want to be able to give back and help others, and you want peace of mind. And that's not putting a number on it. That's not visualizing swimming in cash, but it's all feel good stuff. When you're putting out to the universe, peace of mind, dinner with friends, paying my bills on time, having excess, being able to give back. Those are all positive things that the universe is like, heck yes, I will bring you that. And the universe will match those thoughts the same way that the universe will match, oh my gosh, I don't know how I'm going to pay for this. I don't know what I'm going to do. We've also talked about sometimes if you can't think a better feeling thought, to think about something entirely different, like just shift your thought to something that feels good. We've talked about that. This is a way that you're doing that while staying on the same topic. You're shifting your thought to what it actually feels like when you do have plenty of money, when you do have excess, when you can do nice things for other people, when you can do nice things for yourself. You're thinking about spending that money. And it's such a good feeling. And just talking about that, listeners, if you could see Adria right now, as I'm talking through these things, she's smiling because she agrees with me. She knows it feels good to be able to go buy a new outfit. It feels good to be able to go out to dinner. It feels good to be able to surprise someone that you love with flowers or a card or a gift or whatever. I've told you, Adria's shown up on my doorstep unannounced before, and that felt great for her and for me. Those are the things that we want. That's what we should be putting out there. And so when we find ourselves in that mental state of, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do, I'm so stressed, take your mind off of the bills, take your mind off of the stress, and ask yourself, okay, I know I don't want this. What is it that I do want? Adria, jump in here and tell me your thoughts on this conversation so far.
I have to tell you, this is super timely, actually, because what I didn't tell you before we started recording is that I'm trying to decide between two things that I'm very excited about, two experiences. And there's the one that I think fits my needs perfectly. And there's the other one that's cheaper. And so I didn't want to take a lot of your time today before we start recording, but I almost was going to talk to you about this and be like, there's the thing I really want to do, or I can save a couple $1,000s if I do it this other way. Oh. And now as you're talking, I mean, and they're both good. They would both be great experiences. But now as you're talking, I'm realizing instead of talking myself into the one that isn't my first choice, I need to just be focused. I get to just focus on how excited I am about the other one and know that the money's going to come my way, because that's where I'm going to put my focus, is on the one I want, and worry less about the details.
You know, I've talked a lot about things that I've manifested or things I've drawn to myself on this podcast. And we don't talk much about what you've done, and I won't get into specifics, but I am constantly in awe of the things that you have manifested, especially just in the last year, and the way that your life has progressed and the things that you've been able to afford and the way that money has fallen out of the sky for you. And so it's so much easier to look at someone else's situation and be like, oh my gosh, that's incredible. And I know that you look at me and think that all the time. But if you can just remember the crazy things, including money, that you have manifested for yourself, you would realize a few $1,000s in the big scheme of things really is not a make or break it. You can manifest a few $1,000s. You've done it in the past. You can do it again. So there's your answer. And I'm glad that this is timely. Yay. I'm excited for you. I can't wait to hear more about it. Okay, let's go through one more role play before we kind of close up this conversation, because I think this is another really good one. We're playing Let's Pretend. Let's say, Adria, that there has been a period in your life where you were not completely comfortable with your body. And so maybe you look in the mirror and you don't like certain things about your appearance. Maybe it's your weight, maybe it's wrinkles, maybe it's you don't like your hair, maybe you chopped it off and you hate it. You wish you had never done it. You cut your own bangs. I don't know. Let's say that you are struggling with your appearance. Let's role play. Tell me some thoughts that you might be thinking in that scenario.
I'm too fat. I'm too ugly. No one's ever going to find me attractive. I look so old. How's that?
That's good. Again, listeners, we're role playing.
Yeah, I don't want to say anything that I don't want to say anything I really feel or anything.
Of course not. Of course not. Okay. So when we're vibrating at, oh my gosh, I look so old. I've got all these new wrinkles. For me, oh my gosh, while we're on the topic, as I'm aging, I'm like, keep finding new moles. I'm like, where do these moles come from? And why is this like a thing with age? Like who knew that as you age, your body develops weird things?
Yeah,
Anyway.
no one prepares you for all the things that happen as you age. I think it's really unfair to be surprised.
Listeners, just if you're in your 20s, know that as you get older, you're going to find new things in new places that won't thrill you. So that being said, as we're putting out to the universe and thinking these thoughts of, oh, I'm too fat, I'm too old, I'm too wrinkled, nobody's going to love me. Whatever these thoughts are, what do you think the universe is giving us back in return?
You're 100% right, Adria.
I agree with you. Here's more of that.
Exactly.
Yes. Okay. So just like before, if our thoughts are all of these negative things, it should be a red flag where we ask ourselves, we say, okay, I know I don't want this. I know that this is not what I desire. What is it that I do want? What is it that I do desire? So, Adria, when you're feeling that way, what is it that you really want? What do you want?
I want to look in the mirror and go, dang, girl, you are hot. I want to be surprised by how good I look every time I look in the mirror.
Exactly. And okay, this is going to sound really vain, and I don't mean it this way at all.
You're not vain at all.
It could be the crystal skin roller that I use in the morning. But for the past month, I get ready in the same spot in my house every morning, looking in the same mirror. Guys, I'm in a tiny house, so I only have so much room, but I stand in the same place every morning and do my makeup. And for so long, I've sat in the mirror and I put on my moisturizer, and then I've used this face roller, and I've been like, oh my gosh, I'm looking so old. What am I going to look like 10 years from now or 20 years from now? And, I haven't really spent a lot of time thinking about it, but I've recognized it, noticed it every morning for quite some time. And for the past probably close to a month, I look in the mirror, and no joke, guys, I look in the mirror, and it's not even that I consciously was thinking ahead of time. I look in the mirror and I'm like, I think I'm getting younger. I look so much younger. My skin is looking so much. Oh my gosh, my wrinkles are going away. And it's not an intentional thing. It's not like I'm sitting around visualizing the fountain of youth and being so young, but it's weird. I do feel like some of the things that I am working on attracting are probably helping get rid of stress in my life and make me feel more at ease and more comfortable. And in turn is having a physical effect on my appearance, but I'm also noticing it and acknowledging it. And I'm looking in the mirror every morning and I'm putting on my moisturizer and I'm using this face roller. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm looking so much younger. This is incredible. And then, of course, that feeds my belief that I'm looking younger. And so, of course, I'm attracting looking younger. But Adria, you're absolutely right. Whenever we're not feeling good about ourselves, what we really want is, I want to feel good in my clothes, or I want to wear a smaller size. I want to say, dang, I look hot, and believe it. I want to go out into the world and feel like I'm turning heads. I want my significant other to make me feel like $1,000,000, be so attracted to me, not be able to keep their hands off me. Those are the emotions that we want. And when we think those things, we actually, even if we don't believe it, when we think about those thoughts, it feels good. It feels good to think about those things. And when we think about those things, we're vibrating at a higher vibration. And the universe is like, it doesn't understand the words. It doesn't understand I want. It understands, dang, I'm so hot. It understands that
Yes.
vibration. It understands that, oh my gosh, I'm so youthful. I'm so good looking. I'm so young. It understands that vibration. And it goes, yes, I agree with you. And it gives you more. It's so crazy how the universe works. And it is called the law of attraction because it's law. It's not this thing or this being out there that's making these decisions and is giving you its approval or blessing you because you're doing the right things. It's literally giving you the match to what you're vibrating always at all times, whether you're aware of it, whether you believe it, whether you acknowledge it, it is always on. It never turns off. It is always matching what you are putting out. And so when we're talking about how do we get the things that we want, it's taking the times that we don't feel good and using it as a jumping off point to ask ourselves, okay, I don't want this. What is it that I want? Adria, do you have any additional thoughts or questions on this topic?
Not really. What I love about the word pivot is, to me, you can pivot with your feet in the same spot. You can be standing in one spot, facing north, and do a complete about face and be facing south and have a totally different view without taking any other action. So I get excited about the word pivot because it's, in my mind, a simple thing that you can do that completely changes everything.
I agree. I love it. Thank you for pointing that out because pivoting doesn't take much effort. Like you said, you can do it in the exact same place, literally with like one step, move your foot to the left or the right, turn it 180 degrees and you turn 180 degrees and everything changes. I love that perspective. Thank you for that. Okay, this leads us to our action item, which is probably pretty obvious from this conversation. But the action item for our listeners is to take this week, because it'll be a whole week till another episode releases. Take this week, and every time you have a negative thought about yourself, about someone you communicate with, about the weather, about the way you feel, about your finances, about your job, about your car, it doesn't matter. Whenever you have a bad feeling thought or a negative thought about anything, stop and say, I don't want this. And then ask yourself, what is it that I do want? And then turn that thought around and focus on what you want instead. And if you can do that over and over and over and over again, I promise you, the more you do that, the more it will become a learned behavior. It will be easier and easier for you to do. It's okay if you don't do it every single time or if you don't catch yourself right away. But the more that you practice this, the more that it will become second nature for you. And you will pivot, 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 so that what you're vibrating is actually what you want instead of what you don't want. So that's our action item for this week. I love this topic. I love this conversation. It's something I'm super excited about. I've actually started implementing it myself in the last couple of weeks, and I've seen instantaneous results that are incredible. But this leads us into this week's winner. And we do have a winner this week. We have another glowing review on Apple Podcasts. This week's winner is Zippity, Zippadee. Zippity left us a really nice review on Apple Podcasts. So Zippity, send us an email at hello@attractitwithease.com. Tell us your theme word for the year and give us your address, and we'll send you your bracelet. Adrian, would you like to remind our listeners as to what this winner is winning and what it's all about? What is our giveaway?
Yes, we are doing a giveaway every week this year from those people who submit reviews of our podcast. Each week, we will draw a winner from those reviews, and the winner will receive a custom theme bracelet with their word of the year, their theme of the word. Oh my gosh, I'm tripping over my words. A custom bracelet with their theme word of the year, which we talk about in episode 1 of our podcast.
That's right. And for listeners who have not listened to the first 10 episodes, those were released as our Jumpstart module. They are 10 episodes designed to go together. We have a free workbook that you can download from our website, attractitwithease.com. And those 10 episodes will help you jumpstart your ability to manifest anything that you want in life. So make sure you go back, download those episodes, listen to them, download the workbook. And just like I started out saying at the beginning of the podcast, we love to hear from our listeners. So anyone that wants to ask questions, give us feedback, give us their results, we would love to hear from you. Reach out to us through the website or by email. But we just want to thank you for listening. It's been a fun conversation this week, Adria. Thank you for joining me. And I can't wait for next week.
So fun. Yes.
Thank
Have a
you
great
so
night.
much. You too. Bye-bye.